Now it's on.
Oh, now it's on. Okay. Hello, broadcast.
Hello. I'm not broadcast, but I'm saying hello to you. Um,
Thank you.
I I Hi, my name is Peter.
I'm Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. I apologize to
Hello.
you. Hello. I apologize to you and people listening to this in the future because I've been a little under the weather and I feel like my voice is a little strange. And if you hear something like this, that's me muting my microphone so I can cough.
So if we hear the absence of hearing things.
Yeah, it's a pretty zen concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
today we're going to talk about the Incredible Hulk from 2008
Yeah.
as part
Yep.
two. Yep, as part two of our Marvel Cinematic Universe movie club. So, if you haven't listened to our Iron Man review, you don't necessarily have to because these are two different movies. But if you want to, go listen to it.
I was gonna say something about the Hulk like being really referential for the Iron Man, but it's not. It's not. The Hulk stands alone, and it should.
Yeah. So some of the stats.
Mm-hmm.
This movie came out in 2008. It was released on June 13th. So and we're recording this almost 10 years to the day because today is June 12th,
Oh,
2018.
that's kind
So,
of neat, actually.
yeah. So we are almost exactly 10 years out from this movie. Um, yeah, so it was recorded, or I'm sorry, it was released on June 13th, 2008. The movie was directed by Louis Leterrier. I think that's how you say his name. Written by Zach Penn. Stars Edward Norton, Liv Tyler, Tim Roth, Tim Blake Nelson, Ty Burrell, William Hurt. This was, as I said, the second movie in this like Marvel Cinematic Universe chain of movies. Um, the weekend that it was released, the other movies released with it were well, the next one that really matters at all was The Happening.
Oh, okay.
I never saw that movie. Um, Mir Bap Pali App. I don't know what that is. The
Um,
13th Alley, Encounters at the End of the World. I don't recognize any of these. Kicking It, To the Limit. Yeah, I don't recognize any of them. But it was released pretty shortly after Iron Man, and this year was like there was lots of big movie things released this year. Wally was released 2 or 3 weeks later, along with Wanted, which isn't like super great, but it's pretty
hmm.
good. It's a pretty
Hmm.
decent movie. Um, Hancock was released that year. It was like everybody's trying the superhero movies in 2008.
Sure.
Hellboy 2 was released same year. Journey to the Center of the Earth. This is all that summer, like, and then the thing that blew them all out of the water was The Dark Knight in July
Oh,
of that
sure.
year.
Yeah. I've never seen that whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's it's not my favorite Batman movie, but it's certainly a good movie. Like it's a good movie, I would say.
What is your favorite Batman movie?
The first Batman with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
I don't know why that surprises me, but that surprises me.
It's so good. It's so comic booky. It
That's
it's
true.
it's so like it captures like the comic bookiness of really good Batman comics and does not try to be realistic, but is still like disturbing and weird.
Hmm.
Um, Prince did the soundtrack to it. Like it's just really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen that either, actually.
Oh, that's on Netflix now.
I have to watch it because I
Yeah.
do think Michael Keaton's an underrated actor.
He was such a well, wait a second. Wait a second. Let's
Hmm.
rein it in here. I know we both did not like The Incredible Hulk, but we are under contract to talk about it.
I was just about to say, unfortunately, he was not in this movie. So
Michael Keaton was not in this movie.
Michael Keaton was not in this
Um,
movie. That's just
yeah,
gonna be like every movie going forward. And Michael Keaton was not in this movie.
yeah,
That's just how we close it every
yeah.
time. All right.
The director, before this, he was known for his Transporter movies, The
Hmm.
Transporter, which I never saw, but I heard that they're pretty good. Then he made Clash of the Titans after this, and it looks like he's going to make the Dark Crystal series for Netflix next year.
Yeah, I'm
So,
super excited about that.
yeah, that's see there we go. 1 second. 1 second. Hold on.
Okay, holding.
Ooh, all right.
You all right?
I'll be all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Though
So,
you could say it was partially directed by Edward Norton because there were scenes where he did in fact direct himself.
oh, did he?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
he did a lot of rewriting for the script actually. And
Hmm.
so um yeah, he was hired to both play Banner and to rewrite Penn's screenplay in order to make it more different from the 2003 film.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like,
And
it's been a while since I've seen those movies, but in some ways I actually liked those movies better. Or there was only one other one, right?
yeah,
Yeah. I like that Ang Lee movie better in some ways because he tried to make a comic book on screen. Like he used split screen a lot and did some like weird effects and stuff. Anyway,
yeah.
keep going.
Leterrier wanted to make like a grittier movie,
Yeah.
darker, grittier, and that's why everything's like more intense. And the Hulk is like super striated muscles and real veiny.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Norton, there were times where Leterrier would be directing like another scene somewhere else, and Norton would be directing himself. Specifically, the scene in the well, we'll get to the summary in a second, I guess. But there's that
Yeah.
scene in the park.
Hmm.
I'll talk more about that and how I feel about that scene when after we talk about the summary. Would you
I'm
like me to summarize
sure, go for it.
this movie?
There's not much to summarize, I feel like, but yeah, go for it.
There's not. um, so it starts with sort of like a flashback sequence to show Bruce Banner experimenting, and oh no, he becomes the Hulk, and oh no, he smashes up the lab, and his girlfriend Liv Tyler is super freaked out. They split up. He runs
Ooh,
away to
can I
somewhere else.
can I
Yeah,
interject really quick?
yeah.
That was actually one of my favorite things about this movie. Maybe my favorite
Really?
thing about this movie was that how they did the origin. Like so many of these movies are origin stories and they don't need to be. But I really
Sure.
liked just it being in the credits and it was kind of like super melodramatic and lit kind of weird and like you could totally tell the entire backstory by just there's no words or anything, you know? Like credits are rolling and we're watching all this stuff happen. It's like this is kind of cool. I like this. I like
Yeah,
how I thought it was cool. Yeah.
I was really torn. I was really torn because it wasn't doing anything to grab me, and I'm like, wait, am I supposed to be invested in this part? Is this
Yeah.
just an info dump? I
Yeah.
didn't really. It's a different format. My brain didn't know what to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I haven't seen that used much, maybe ever in a movie before. Maybe that's why I didn't know what to do with it. So it's like I don't understand what you want from me, movie, in this
Right.
initial sequence.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so after this this sort of flash of info, we find that Bruce Banner, who is, spoiler, the Hulk, is in Brazil, where he is working at a bottling factory and also searching for a cure. He's been corresponding with someone named, he only knows as Mr. Blue, and he's Mr. Green, and he's been learning how to like control his rages.
Mm-hmm.
He gets found because he accidentally bleeds into a bottle, and oh no, Stan Lee drinks it
Mm-hmm.
and gets gamma poisoning. So then they track him down because the army, the military, wants him back and wants to use him to test and to make more super soldiers. Specifically, William Hurt as, oh, what's his name? Thunderbolt? Thunder?
Yep,
Thunder,
that's it. General Thunderbolt Ross.
Which I typically I like William Hurt in movies.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I felt like they wanted me to feel more about William Hurt's character than I felt. Anyway, so he wants Banner to come back, and he hires Tim Roth's character, who is named, what is your name? Emil Blonsky.
Blonsky, that's right.
Blonsky, to like track him down, bring him back, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, Blonsky thinks the Hulk is super cool and wants to be.
I don't know that. I don't know. I mean, you're saying that sarcastically, but
I am saying that
he doesn't.
He doesn't think the Hulk is super cool. He wants those like super soldier powers for himself.
Yeah,
is what he wants. He wants to be super strong and like.
Yeah, like even just the synopsis of this movie,
mm-hmm.
It's there's no like interesting turns or anything, right?
There's
like,
nothing. It's like
the rest of the movie. Yeah, the rest of the movie is Blonsky tries to be like the Hulk and screws up and chaos ensues.
At one point, Banner does reunite with Betty Ross. God damn it.
That was her name in the comics, though. Like,
yeah, it's a very comic book name.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the I'm just gonna give you an aside here, like, or give everybody. I'm just gonna interrupt.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
Go for it.
I mean, that's the problem with making these Marvel cinematic movies like this. Like, they're trying to go for all this realism shit. And like
someone named Betty Ross.
It's like it's purposefully melodramatic, like in the strictest definition of the word. Like, it's heightened, crazy drama with people like names like Thunderbolt and the Hulk and Betsy Ross or whatever her name is. Betty Ross? Yeah.
Betty Ross, yeah.
Betty Ross. Yeah, not Betsy Ross. But and so when you try and like, Born Identity, if I like a movie like this, it's not gonna make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these people are trying. It's like it's like you're trying to have a normal conversation with somebody dressed as a mime or something. Like,
yeah, I think
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah. Anyway. But keep going. I want you to, if you want to finish up your
I
synopsis.
do. I'm almost done.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, so Betty Ross, they're trying to do this comic book thing, but they make it too serious, too gritty, and they're so dependent on the relationship between Banner and Betty, and there was nothing there for me. Like, there was no chemistry. But anyway, so they get together and they hide and whatever. They find Mr. Blue, who has come up with a potential antidote for the Hulk stuff. And then
Mr. Blue is what's his name?
From Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, he's the character from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, but he's
Dr. Samuel Stearns.
Samuel Stearns, yeah. Who
cellular biologist.
And later on, when he gets like that bit of blood dropped into that gash on his head, they're indicating for people who know the Hulk comic book that this guy is going to turn into this character that was a villain of the Hulks called the Leader, and he kind of had this. He was green and kind of had this big, like pulsating head, and it was just
gross.
Weird.
Cool.
And, yeah, just like super crazy looking. Anyway.
And so then the big climax is when the Hulk fights. There's like this one big fight scene in the park, and then they run away again. And then there's another big fight scene where they destroy a bunch of buildings, and it's between the Hulk and between Emil Blonsky, who had taken a little bit of super soldier serum, and he got a little bit stronger, and he wanted more. And then he took a bunch of the Hulk stuff, and it made with this big monster with spikes coming out of his back. And
yeah, he's the Abomination. That's his, from the comics. That's who he is.
Yeah. And so so the Hulk and they fight and blah blah blah, and then he defeats him, and then that's it. And then the Hulk runs away again, and that's it. And then like the it's either after the credits or the last scene or whatever, Tony Stark approaches Thunderbolt to put a team together.
Right.
And blah blah blah. So
I don't think we ever see him again, Thunderbolt, in any of the other Marvel Cinematic Universe.
You do, actually.
Oh, we do? Oh, really?
Yep. Yes. He comes back. Where are you? He is in Captain America Civil War. And he let's see. He's the one who so I was like reading like the character synopsis on Wikipedia, and he is the one that put so much thought into this character. He compared Ross to Captain Ahab, and the Hulk is actually Hurt's favorite superhero. And really, he loved making the movie because it felt more like an indie movie than the typical like high anxiety of a studio film. And that he described Ross as humiliated by Hulk's conscience. He actually sees and recognizes that it's more developed than his own, even though he's a patriot and a warrior for his country. He's sacrificed much for that purpose, but at the expense at times of his humanity, which he occasionally recovers.
Huh. Yeah. He thought about it a lot.
So he was in Captain America Civil War. I think he was also, I think, in briefly in Infinity Wars.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting. Yeah, and Thunderbolt Ross, like that character, I guess down the road, in 2008, actually, that character turns into the Red Hulk.
Okay.
I have know nothing about it. I'm just skimming here, and I see that he was Red Hulk in 2008.
That's kind of neat, actually.
And his character has been around since Incredible Hulk #1 in 1962, like Thunderbolt Ross was, but Red Hulk was the same year. Kind of funny. He's also known as Rolk.
Sure. Portmanteau of Red Hulk and Ross.
Yeah.
I like it. I like a good portmanteau.
Yeah, excuse me. There were parts that I liked about this movie. Like, I was sort of into Edward Norton at the beginning, like I think he's in Rio de Janeiro. I think that's what it is.
Yep.
And like, I kind of liked that whole bit, and I liked the Days Since Last incident, little counter thing, because that kind of makes you think like the Hulk is it puts like a parallel between like the Hulk and like Recovery, like
Mm.
like people
Oh,
are falling
sure.
off the wagon or whatever, and
Yeah, like an
it
addict.
yeah, and it kind of internalizes. I like the idea of somebody who has this uncontrollable thing that they're trying to like get a handle on and stuff. I just I like all of that stuff, you know, and I
Yeah.
like the idea of the Hulk a lot. Um, the I was really into when I lived in Florida. There's a Hulk ride.
Okay.
Have you ever been to that?
Uh-uh.
Oh, it. I'm going to spoil something for you, but it's easily spoiled if you're just waiting in line for it.
Okay.
So it's just constructed really cool. Like you walk in the inside part where you wait to get into this like huge roller coaster. It's like a traditional roller coaster that like goes up and down and loops and stuff.
Hmm.
But the portion to get there, you have to walk inside and there's all these monitors with like cartoon, like it's as if you're walking through Banner's lab,
Mm. Hmm.
and there's all these like cartoons that play on a loop and stuff, but it shows him like experimenting and saying things like, oh, I think this time it's going to work, and like bottles crashing and stuff.
Hmm.
Then you get in, sit down, and you like has those big like um those big straps that like go over you,
Mm.
that like
Okay.
strap on like over your shoulders, and it's like this big plasticky metally thing, and there's more audio playing, like it starts to play whenever they press the button or whatever, and he says like again, I think this time it's going to work, and then he goes, oh no, something's wrong, and you're moving kind of slow because like the start of the ride is an incline,
Okay.
like right off the bat it's this huge incline,
Hmm.
and you're moving kind of slow when he goes, oh, I think it's going to work, and then he goes, oh no, or whatever he says. And I've never been on a ride that uses like supposedly it uses like super magnets to shoot you right off the bat, like up this incline after it sort of toys with you for the first 2 or 3 seconds.
Well,
So you think you're just on this like little, you know, you're gonna be like clacking your way up to the apex and then go down, but instead it like shoots you out really fast. So, and then it's just a normal ride after that. It's just like loops and super crazy and fast and all that stuff.
that sounds kind of cool, actually.
I love that ride. That's my favorite. That's my favorite roller coaster ever. It's just put together so well. It's like this big green thing, and like it's sort of metaphorically mirroring this like rage this guy has inside of him and stuff. Like it's pretty sweet.
Okay.
It's like a good, very solid representational ride. I liked it. Um, anyway, all of that is to say, like, I really like this idea of the Hulk,
Hmm.
but then the way this plays out, like, the CG back 10 years ago isn't that great, especially when, like, a lot of the close ups are on this big green CG character.
Yeah, the eyes
Like,
are that like
yeah,
that kind of green that looks like doll eyes,
yeah, yeah. It's
and
that
the hair was like
uncanny,
big clunky
that,
hair.
it's that uncanny valley thing. Like, it just
Yeah.
it's not, doesn't look right, and like you said, we're supposed to be invested in this relationship between the Hulk and Betty, and we don't have any history with them, so we're seeing them reunited, which could be kind of cool, but it's not really. And
Yeah, I think that was the problem that I had with that really fast intro is that you see them like briefly interact at some point within that intro, and then there's nothing. And so you don't really get why there's no build up for their relationship.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
There's nowhere, you didn't start anywhere, so now that we're supposed to be invested in it and have it be like this big relief that they're back together or something. Like it's not there.
Yeah.
And when he picks her up and brings her into the cave, it just made me think of like King Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, wasn't good.
Yeah, like subsequent um appearances of the Hulk and like Avengers and whatnot, I really enjoy. Like once he's played by Mark Ruffalo. I don't know if it's just a change in actor or director change, but I really like the Hulk in later movies. Um,
Do you think that's because he doesn't have as much to do? Like he's not carrying the weight of the whole thing?
it could be. I think they find a better balance with comedy and pathos with the character.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we'll get to this like I don't know, in
Yeah.
several months, but in Thor Ragnarok, the Hulk's character is really good.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's on Netflix now. I want to watch it, but I'm also aware that we need to watch.
Right, like a million other things. I won't say too much more because I don't want to spoil it, but the Hulk's character is really good. I like him in Avengers. Um, I think when you have a character of that size, I think it's important to like look for the comedy because
Mhm.
it's that juxtaposition of he's under like this great emotional torment, but there's something like darkly funny about some of it, you know.
Well, yeah,
Um,
yeah, and it's based on a comic book that is
it's a
supposed to
comic book.
be, yeah, yeah, like
I,
right,
I I just felt like Norton took himself too seriously in the role.
yeah. He's
Like he was trying to make this like I don't know, like ode to graphic novel literature.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
It's weird because
Or like
he's Edward Norton is funnier in Fight Club.
mhm,
Like like when he's on screen and he's saying things, he's actually playing like bigger, you know, like
sure.
he makes more sort of weird faces and is like a little bit more hammy,
Yeah, I
you
think that
know?
would have worked really well in this. I
Yeah.
think he's trying to be like the quiet, sensitive part of the Hulk. He did
Yeah,
have
and
a few funny moments, like when he was trying to say "you wouldn't like me when I'm angry," but he didn't know the Portuguese for that, so he ended up saying "you wouldn't
yeah.
like me when I'm hungry."
Right.
Or
Right.
when Liv suggests that or Betty suggests that they go on the subway, and he's like, "Me in a metal tube, surrounded by angry people." She's like,
Right.
"Let's take a cab." So there are these like
Yeah.
tiny moments when I liked him, and I
Yeah.
liked him
Yeah.
in the park scene.
Hmm.
I think it's when he first discovers that Betty has a relationship with someone else now, who's played
Is
by a
that guy from
Modern Family.
Modern Family?
Ty
Yeah.
Burrell, yeah, who's really funny. He's a super funny guy. Real small.
That guy and John Hamm need to make some sort of like 1950s movie because they both look like
Yes,
they both have these like 1950s qualities about them.
yes, I would agree with that.
And I think that guy his name is Ty Burrell, is that the guy's name?
Hmm.
Yeah. Like I think that guy Ty Burrell should make super serious movies. Like his face just I feel like would lend itself to something really crazy, like some sort of modern update to a Hitchcock movie or like a new Twilight Zone or something. I don't know. He's just so distinctive looking and weird.
Yeah, he's got these like real kind of intense eyebrows, and his mouth does that like pointy thing at the corners.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And he does comedy, so he's probably gonna do like drama better. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's see what else did I. Oh, so a few. Can I share a few interesting things I found out about the movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they actually did want Mark Ruffalo to be the Hulk
Yeah.
um, before before they chose Edward Norton. Um, but they felt like Edward Norton looked more like it was but Marvel wanted Edward Norton. They felt like he looked like the character David Banner, who was in the TV show.
Oh, was his name David Banner in the TV show?
Well, I think it was still Bruce.
Oh, so who was David Banner?
David Banner Hulk. I think he is let's see. Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess his name was David because Bruce is his middle name.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
David Bruce Banner. Which he kind of does. Oh, and there was also, speaking of the TV show, there was a little cameo of Lou Ferrigno as a security guard that they bribe with some pizza, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, and Lou Ferrigno plays the Hulk's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was only supposed to say Betty like one time, and then they realized that they needed to get him to say Hulk smash, and so he does.
I mean, I'm assuming he does all the yelling and stuff too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you see that the guy who plays her dad was also in, I think, the Hulk cartoon?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Where did I see that? Anyway, it'll come back to me. Oh yeah. Yeah, the pizza restaurant owner guy.
Mm.
Paul Soles. He was Banner's voice in the 1966 Marvel Superheroes cartoon.
Oh, okay.
That old guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
Hey, let's take a quick pause here.
Mm-hmm.
Just real quick.
Sure.
And I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. Hang on.
All right.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Welcome. Yes. There's no response to that. Somebody says welcome back, and you want to say, well, welcome.
You say
back.
thank you.
Thank
you for your welcoming.
Thank you. Yeah. So the other cameos are like Martin Starr is in that. Remember, Martin Starr is in the computer lab, and what I forget now. Like I just watched this movie and it's already leaving me. Like
yeah,
like checking his email or something.
Yeah.
And then Rickson Gracie, who is like this huge jujitsu star. He plays the guy who's like teaching Edward Norton about breathing in that one episode, in that one scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like he's super famous jujitsu guy.
Yeah. There's also, I mean, it's kind of a cameo. So they, when they're flipping through channels, Banner's flipping through channels on the television. One of the movies he stops on is The Courtship of Eddie's Father, which starred Bill Bixby.
Yeah.
Um, oh, the one there was another moment that I liked going through this trivia list here, where Betty tries to buy Bruce some purple pants, and
Yeah,
he won't do it.
yeah, that was good. That was
So like
good.
little nods like that made me really happy. Or like when Banner was shopping on his own at one point and he's looking for pants and the woman at the like the clothing stall at the market hands him a pair and he's like, no, stretchy, stretchy.
Right, right, yeah. Yeah,
Um Also I guess before Edward Norton was considered, David Duchovny was also in the running.
that would have been such a that would have been maybe pretty good actually, because David Duchovny has been in some pretty funny things. Um,
Yeah, he's got pretty good timing.
yeah, yeah, that might have been pretty good. Um, so we know that this movie did not pass the Bechdel test, right?
No.
Right. What are the rules again? Two women talking to each other about something other than a man.
Yep. No.
Is that the three? Is there a third criteria that I'm missing?
Um, I should just have those like
Yeah.
up when when we record.
Yeah.
Let's see. And the two women must be named. So like named
Oh yeah.
characters, featuring a work featuring at least two women who talk to each other about something other than a man. And
Yeah. Yeah. So there that it didn't pass that. There's
no,
no
there's Liv Tyler.
there's no queer characters in this. There's no people of color that actually have names that like that are main characters in this movie.
Hmm.
It yeah, that kind of stuff bothers me, especially when we're talking about like again, it goes like it's a comic book.
Right.
It's a comic book. Like it's not real. You can
Yep.
do things like you could have somebody be related to another person and have them be opposite races from one another.
Yeah,
And never
absolutely.
explain it. And just never
No.
explain it.
Nope. Because
Yeah.
it's a comic book and you can do what you want.
Right. Or like they did that with that new Lost in Space series. And I think it took them like 5 or 6 episodes to even mention the fact that her daughter was a different race from her.
Which I really liked.
Yeah, I did
liked
too.
that it wasn't like something that they felt like they had to jump on and explain right away.
Right.
Or people will be confused.
Yeah, no, we're not confused. We got it. It's fine.
Yeah, because
They're people. It's that like people that it's okay. We'll get it. We'll keep up. I have this. So I've been listening to this author called Chris Hedges. He's like this super lefty socialist author guy, and he's basically saying how like the liberal class has kept it so safe that the only thing they're good for anymore is to like Bill and I were joking about this the other day, is to have like hot takes, like write some think pieces, you know. So I'm aware that that is exactly what the little thing that this podcast does is have like little conversations about movies and stuff. So I'm trying to reconcile that because I love watching movies and I love talking about movies, you know. But there's a part of me that feels like fruitless about the whole thing. But anyway, so that's just an aside to my self-loathing side, I guess. And also, I there's somewhere in that book that he calls like media like hallucinations of the populace or something like that. Or maybe I'm making that up. It doesn't matter who says it, but I think that's one of the reasons that I'm interested in talking about these movies, because I feel like everybody watches them. Like Republicans watch them, Democrats watch them. Everybody watches these things. They're like farmed out to China and all over the globe, you know.
Right.
So I feel like these movies are like, uh, it's like all our collective subconscious has come together and like churned out this thing, and then like we all gravitate for some reason at this point in time for the past 10 years. We all gravitate to these Marvel movies, you know?
Hmm.
So like, what does this one have to say? Maybe this one doesn't have much to say theme wise about what's happening because it's just like not a very good one, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's an environmental message because he's green.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything because I mean they kind of go with like, oh, military's kind of bad, but
Yeah,
it's more
but
like
then
this one military guy is bad.
and then it sort of the military sort of redeems himself at the end, right?
Yeah.
Because if we want to market this to Republicans as well as Democrats and like war hawks as well as, you know,
Hmm.
somebody, it's like, well, we can't end on a negative military message because then our like super rah-rah military folks won't like this movie. So let's not lean so heavy into that, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it kind of wavers on that, where it could have been like a pretty anti-military type movie, you know, like if it
Right.
wanted to go for a stance, like it could have been that.
Yeah, I think maybe that's part of why it just couldn't keep my attention is that it feels like it kept waffling on
Yeah,
like everything.
yeah.
It was trying really hard to be this really middle of the road movie.
Hmm.
And maybe some of it was because Iron Man had just come out and Iron Man had had some I would say some commentary on the military
Yeah.
and was making some statements and they didn't want to put two out at the same time, around the same time that would push it too far or something. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, yeah. What's I mean, what's weird, like if we just think about comic book movies in general,
Hmm.
like now that I think about it, like these Marvel movies have a lot of military stuff in them. And you don't have to have a comic book movie with military things in it. Like
Right.
sometimes Batman has the SWAT team called in, you know, but like doesn't have to be there. But
True,
yeah.
though Batman deals with sort of I wouldn't say smaller scale villains, but like they're definitely Earth based, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
But the
but Marvel has like villains from different parts of the galaxy and different
well,
on a larger scale. Like
well,
Batman's concerned
well,
about Gotham,
well,
right?
not necessarily because he's in Justice League. And
Well,
Justice
that's
League
true.
is like all over the place.
That's true.
It's just it. I don't know. I don't have a fully formed idea there. I'm just saying the first we've talked about two Marvel movies, and both of them it's just like military. You know, like
Hmm.
it plays a real big part in it, and I mean it makes sense for. I guess it makes sense for both. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, but it's
Sure.
conceivable to make a Hulk movie without there being military involved. I think maybe not. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I think you get something that big and disruptive. It's not the SWAT team isn't going to be able to take them down, you know?
Right, but it doesn't necessarily have to go there.
Oh.
Like the Hulk series,
Hmm.
that you know, there's that Bill Bixby show. It was more just like the Hulk goes around. It like every episode didn't turn into the military's after the Hulk.
Sure. Sure. Though I think hmm.
I think my suspicion is that you put that in there, you put that sort of stuff in there to grab some right wing folks. That's my that might be what I'm kicking around.
Sure, which would make a lot of sense considering like George W. had just stopped being president.
Yeah, he was on his way out, right?
He was on his way out. It was just before, like, it was the year that Obama got elected.
Mm-hmm.
George W. was still president. There was a lot of conflict in the U.S. about forces in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot. There was a lot of conflict about military, just in general, and so I think, like you said, like it's these Marvel movies become an amalgam of what people are thinking about and feeling at the time, and military was a big deal, was like in the public view and in the public mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, the other difference between um, Marvel movies and Batman, not so much for, okay, my theory falls apart with Iron Man, but with like the Hulk, Bruce Banner doesn't have any money. Batman has a shit ton of money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know. I think it's a means of, it's also a provider of gadgets.
Having military be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Whereas Bruce can just buy stuff.
Right.
But in order to get that level, you need like military spending for the, you need a government agency or something. I also think a lot of it probably has to do with Captain America
Mm-hmm.
being a part of Marvel. And I mean, he started in the army, you know,
Yeah.
like that was his origin story.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that, like, the X-Men came before this, but didn't have the. I don't think it had the same foothold that all these MCU movies have.
Right.
And maybe that's part of it because, you know, the military industrial complex and all that. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think in the Marvel movies, it both gives people something to rail against and like a comforting force for people that are into the military.
Right. So who sort of based off of what we talked about in Iron Man, um who is Donald Trump rooting for in this movie?
Um
Because remember we said
yeah.
Donald Trump thinks he's Tony Stark, basically.
Right. Here's no. I don't know that Trump would have been rooting for anybody, but he would think that he totally could have had a meeting with the Abomination and like convince and like talked him into not smashing everybody. I don't know.
I bet he would have Thunderbolt Ross at the White House for at least a couple months as, like, you know, an advisor.
Right. Mostly to try to see if he could flirt with Liv Tyler. Like maybe she'd come visit.
Oh, Jesus. That made me uncomfortable because it's pretty accurate, I bet.
Yep.
Oof.
He probably just wants to like get a peek down her shirt and then he'll dismiss Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Or he'll resign.
Ugh. Yeah. Oh, so there's one like statistic about movies that I like to look at that maybe nobody else on the planet likes to look at, and that's average shot length.
Okay.
So meaning like
yeah,
how long are shots in movies? The longest shot in this movie was 65.3 seconds. 65.3 seconds was the longest shot. The average shot was 3.1 seconds. And the shortest shot was 0.4 seconds.
Sure, all that like back and forth with the battle stuff.
Yeah. Right. And that's what I think these movies are turning into. And that's what I think a lot of stuff that's popular today is turning into, and it makes it so hard for me to follow. Like a show like Westworld, where I feel like you could really go in depth on these characters, and it's just bouncing around constantly, and like word salad and people bouncing around, and
So,
that's what these movies turn into for me. It's just like I don't know what's happening. What were you gonna say?
just you should watch the most recent episode of Westworld. That's all.
Oh yeah. I haven't gotten
Different.
to it. Yeah.
You'll like it.
And there's also I need to look up where this guy made a video essay about how cameras in movies used to they used to be their own character,
Yeah.
like the camera had a place in the scene, so you couldn't just like magically have the camera be someplace else. Like if it switched to another shot, it was a shot that was like grounded somehow, or like you're looking somehow through, like you're wandering around in this scene and the camera is following you there. And then somewhere along the way, like all those rules went out the window, and there's no anchor for things in battle. It's just sort of like they're running left and then cut to another scene, and like there's a car flying, but they're not running left anymore. They're like running at the screen, and yeah,
I know what you mean. I think the worst example of that, to sidetrack from the Marvel for a moment, is the Transformers movies.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Like I never know what's happening, and it's too bad because it's like giant robots fighting each other, which would be totally my jam, but I don't know who's fighting.
Yeah.
I don't know who's winning ever.
Yeah. They're like, the cartoon was all these robots with primary colors, and they like stood out and were like visually appealing. And you could put Optimus Prime on a T-shirt, and you would instantly know that that's Optimus Prime. These robots look like metal shavings cobbled together with like a little bit of color on them.
And then like someone threw them up in the air and they jumble around on the screen, and then there's
and it's not something you want on a T-shirt. It's not something I want on a T-shirt anyway.
Right. And so we kind of see that like with the fight scene between the Hulk and the Abomination. Like it's not too bad, but it's like reaction instead of just like following the Hulk for a minute and building, because that can build drama too if you just like make the camera working on the side of the Hulk, so to speak, and then the Hulk's like looking, and then the Abomination comes into view, as opposed to following everybody and what everybody is doing.
Yeah, and you have like 25 or 30 moments of like, okay, he smashes the police car in half, picks him up on his hands, and like claps them together. Okay, like the Abomination has this big like chain thing. Okay, like there's a scene in the helicopter, and he's got to clap his hands before it like burns the helicopter up. Like there's so many of those moments. If you would have if you just dwell on one or two of them and stretch the fight scene out more, it would be like super suspenseful and weird,
Right.
Yeah. Would you watch this movie again?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Though before we close out here,
sure,
I do have one kind of amazing fan theory about the Hulk. I may have mentioned this before. So I was at a convention not long ago, and they talked about they were talking about the science of like comic books and movies, and it had like actual scientists on this panel, and they were trying to figure out why the Hulk would be green. And the best explanation that they came up with, and then I found it again on the subreddit Shitty Fan Theories, that there's something about the gamma radiation that he was exposed to that temporarily fills his cells with chloroplast.
Oh.
And so he's basically using photosynthesis to generate energy.
Hmm.
And that's why he's so strong, because it would increase the amount of ATP that he had available for his cells.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
I really like that idea. Though it breaks down when you figure out like how he has to get back down to size, because basically he'd have to expel like a lot of CO2 all at once. So he would just sort of have to like fart himself back down to being Bruce Banner.
Right.
That's the part of Hulk that they don't talk about. You never see that part.
Right.
But I really like that idea. And again, it also breaks down with the idea of like Red Hulk and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Though I think there are some red algaes. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I won't try to explain it over podcast, but on the Shitty Fan Theories, they do have like the actual formulas that happen to make ATP, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah.
And but yeah, that's the thing that I like to think about when I watch the Hulk, is that he is just a giant plant man.
I like to think of it as some sort of like I said, like an addiction narrative of some type.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
sure,
inner struggle, turmoil, amp that stuff up.
Yeah, I think that side of things really comes to the fore more once Mark Ruffalo is the Hulk. I think it's just a different portrayal to me. I think because Mark, unless he's like actively smiling, looks kind of sad. Just like that's just true. His face.
That's true. Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't. He comes across as a more emotional guy, just in general.
Yeah, totally.
And I think just changes in writers and directors can bring a lot to the story of the Hulk. And yeah, I like the Hulk as an addition to other movies.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's just such a straightforward character. Like, oh, he gets angry, he turns into the Hulk. That's it.
Yep. Well, I think I've said all I need to say about this movie.
I do too. I feel like this was a shorter recording than our last one.
Yeah, there's less to talk about, but that's okay.
Yeah.
What are we doing after this? What's the next one?
I think
the next one is Iron Man 2.
It is, which I vaguely remember. All I remember about it is that the bad guy has these like electro whips.
Yeah, and that's what's that guy's name?
Is that is that Danny Trejo?
No.
Who am I thinking of?
I
think so. Oh no, it's I don't know the guy's name. Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, Mickey Rourke. He was in Sin City. It's really good, and he was in a bunch of movies in the '80s where he played sort of like a crazy, kind of weird, bad guy type. And I think he struggled with addiction similar to that guy right there. I cannot remember things. Robert Downey Jr. Similar to that. But anyway, that one's next.
Okay. That one, I like that one. Well, I liked it okay. I don't remember a lot about it.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Sounds good.
And then we'll talk about it.
And then I'll remember.
Okay. All right. I'm closing it out here.
All right.
Okay. We did it. Talk at you all later.
Bye.